everyone, and welcome to our AMA.
Great to see you all in April of 2020, and we're more than happy to have received more than 100 questions from our community, and we'll do our very best to go through all of them. Just a few words to the agenda. Obviously, we want to answer the questions in this AMA, and this will include, for the frequency part, 2 live demos of 2 components, the simulation component and the liquidity and trading component we want to present to you. And afterwards, we will digest everything and come out with a blog post in the next days. So we can have all the information in a blog post as well for those who don't watch the video.
Yeah, so we will cover the more generic questions on frequency also in this AMA directly, but decided to have this demo walkthrough as separate content because it could be quite long. So yeah, let's jump into. We have some questions about the present and the future of Unibright. Some of them can be connected, so we will just read the questions to you and try to answer them all together. So we have one question: how many employees do you have and how many do you plan to hire by the end of year 2020? Then another question: in a crisis business, invest less in systems. What will Unibright's strategy be during this growing crisis in coming years? What is the long-term vision of Unibright? And where do you see Unibright in 2 years? So basically this is all about the current state of Unibright and easy questions about how many people work at Unibright. Currently it's about 20. So we have a decentralized development setup and are always able to get more developers in at peak times, like we did shortly before the release of the Unibright framework production version.
Yes, and how many employees do we intend to have by the end of year 2020? Exactly so many than we need them. I mean, obviously, what we can do in the setup is scale up and down very easily, and that's what we've done with Baseline, and that's what we will do in 2020. And we are positive that we can scale up and have great people in the team like we have today, and even more of them. So, of course, there is no fixed number. It's in such a dynamic environment, makes no sense to have numbers, but great, more people will hopefully join the team soon.
And to answer the question about the current crisis situation, of course, situations like this, many businesses are perhaps hesitant to pick up a new technology just now because they're perhaps struggling to survive. But this is not a generic answer to all of the businesses out there because there are enterprises connected closer to digital workflows, identities or processes, and they may even be more interested in picking up new technologies right now. And the more classical ones perhaps first go into securing their core business and then adopt later. So this is exactly why we need this environment where we can scale up quickly, and we're happy that we built Unibright that way, not only relying on employees that just came out of Germany, but all over Europe, and we have a great team used working distributedly, and we'll keep it that way.
Yeah, I think the setup really proved worthy the last 2 years when we achieved great things with Unibright, and we had just had our 2-year anniversary and had this great blog post out summarizing all the things we've achieved. And this leads to the question where we see Unibright in the future, be it in 2 or 3 years, whatever. I mean, the answer is we see ourselves as becoming a blockchain technology powerhouse, being able to develop great things, to offer consultancy services, to have an extremely valuable network, knowing all the parties and persons in the blockchain technology and, let's say, digital currency environment. And so we have a great setup, and that's something we were building with our verticals within Unibright. So we have multiple fields in which we grow and which we will offer to the market. So my vision is being a powerhouse, like, for example, this grows big consultancy companies are within the general tech space at the moment.
Yeah. So the mid to long-term vision, I mean, this could be discussable in our space. If 2 years, what Martin outlined right now, we can look already 2 years into the past and have a vision for the next 2 years. What the long-term vision is, I think it's always important that we see ourselves as integrators. So if we have a new tech stack or a new vertical like we did with Frequency, it's always about integrating the technology that is there and the potential customers that are there and also our tech stack into it. So the long-term vision would be to have everything more integrated, I guess, and not be a sole player on the market, but having an ecosystem where blockchain really brings value to business processes and be the powerhouse to integrate all these streamlines.
Yeah, I think that's what we learned during the last 2 years, starting as a more technical centered company offering technical solutions. We learned a lot that having this consultancy services and the network that is it's not only valuable to us, but it's something that is very much needed for blockchain adoption. And that's why we moved into this field as well. And now we see the big advantage of having this setup that is somehow built out of many verticals. So let's see. Okay, then we have 2 questions. Are there chances that other companies could take you over?
Yeah, and the other question, we see a lot of knockoff projects in the space, projects who copy the code and add some tweaks. Is the team concerned of this?
No, it's not concerned. Of course, it's not so easy to just copy the code and add some tweaks. And additionally, we're moving so fast that I don't really see any dangers there. Even in the opposite way, we really embrace people that look at our code, look at the things we do, look at baseline and what is going to be built there and engage. No, there's really no.
Yeah, and it's not like a recipe for if you have like a restaurant and you have that very secret sauce or secret spice you put in all your food, and once somebody finds out, they can just do the same. It's so much more when building software or when doing consulting. It's also about our know-how, of course, as we've been in this now since 2017 officially, and already the years before on a private base. So everything that we build and everything that we learned is also a value that you can not just copy the code. That's why people are asking us, Unibright, or us too personally also for the workshops. We come to that later. So we are not concerned at all. We rather consider Unibright to be on top of the innovation line, and we would like to keep it that way.
Yeah. Okay, now to the question, are there chances that other companies could take you over? Of course, there might be chances, but this is something we totally can control. And for us, the most important thing is to have the vision of Unibright and the Unibright token alive and setting everything up that the future can be as Unibright as possible. So there's no plan on that. Perhaps there might be some partner somewhere joining Unibright, but only if it makes sense in joining the vision. So
yeah, taking you over sounds hostile, so this cannot happen due to our structure. We are in full control of that.
Yeah.
And strategic partners, if they really are partners, they would never ask for, can I take you over? They would rather ask for, can I be your partner? And this is something we are open to, as you noticed with our partnerships like with Digital Asset and our EA involvement and the Züge and Microsoft partnership. So this is always something we are open to as long as it helps our core business.
Yeah, but it's great to see that we have a growing audience and more professional players as well, looking at us and talking to us. Yeah. Closing this block, we have a question about taxes. Are you planning to move to a tax-friendly country? This is somehow even philosophical.
We can divide the question. Are you planning to move, and what do you consider a tax-friendly country?
Are you planning to move for tax reasons? Do you want to switch to another jurisdiction? No, we don't need to. Everything is fine here. Tax friendliness, obviously, meaning lower taxes. I mean, we are doing very well in Germany. We have a great educational system, a great health system, great infrastructure. Of course, this is all being paid by taxes. Whether someone feels they are high or low is very subjective. So, in general, these are somehow, two things mixed up. We are perfectly fine here. We can do great business, have great infrastructure and people over here. So no, there's no need to move and no willingness to move to another country. Block clients and adoption.
Yeah, so we have two groups of questions here about lockups and about workshops and customers, and then some single questions.
Yeah.
Perhaps we just read the first questions to you. They can be answered completely. How many tokens are you guys hoping will be locked up at the end of 2022? Okay. Will we see more token lockups in 2020 equal like in 2019, or is it hard to get new customers because of COVID? How come it slowed down? So the tokens lockup, how come it slowed down, or are customers signing by not purchasing tokens? So this is all about the token locks, and the main answer is that in the beginning of Unibright we always aligned our offerings to a generic or general adoption of blockchain technology, and we already did some adjustments here in 2019 when we noticed that adoption would not be as fast as perhaps thought in 2017. That's why we started our solution branch and so on. And at that point in time, we also noticed that it makes no sense if we just guess numbers on general adoption of a technology and then guess our own numbers upon it. So currently we are in a very positive mood, especially from enterprise adoption. It's not only about EEA and baseline, it's also that we see that some of the arguments and key values that we are proposing about blockchain are finally understood. So things are moving, but it makes no sense to, at this early stage of the technology, to define exact token locks, and that's why we don't do it anymore. We just dedicate our daily work to find as many clients and users as possible.
Yeah, we had longish discussions within the team. Of course, it's nice to have these goals on the website and to follow along, but it's only nice if these numbers somehow make sense in a way that we have metrics to figure them out. So it's really tough to say, is it X% or Z or Y% by the end of this year and by the end of next year. And additionally, as Stefan said, it makes no difference to our daily work. I mean, we are pushing hard as we can, and we're achieving great things and we'll continue to do so. And then everything comes along. So we can put nice numbers on the website, but that's not who we are. We like to do things that we can control and that we can go for, and that's why we want to surprise ourselves and everyone else with token locks. And of course, token locks should grow, and we'll do everything on that.
Perhaps as a closing thought on this, the initial idea of putting goals of token locks on the website was also to prove that we are able to manage the very, very early phase of our company and to build some trust, because there are many companies that perhaps did an initial offering or even a token sale and just disappeared like 6 months after that. And now we already are 2 years after our ICO, and the part of hey guys, prove that you're doing something. We are lucky that we already passed that phase, and now it's just a phase where we want to grow and show the meaning of blockchain and of course everything that Unibright can offer.
Yeah. Okay, let's move to workshops and the demand for workshops.
Yeah, you said in January there's increase in demand for workshops. Yes,
that's very true.
How many customers are currently using the Unibright framework? And then your roadmap was talking about 80% of tokens locked for 2024, I guess. Yes, so same answer to that last questions. And about workshops and customers, yeah, so the demand increased heavily in January, especially when our EEA and baseline announcement came out. And we're still doing workshops, but there are two main considerations. The first thing is, it looks like, although the workshops are offered by Unibright, that most of the clients want to have Martin and me personally. So this is, of course, a thing of managing resources and also of setting priorities, because most of them ask for, let me put it that way, can you just give us 1 hour of your time and we'll just ask everything that you know and try to make as many questions in 1 hour as possible. So we decided to not offer these small workshops anymore, because the demand was too high for us to manage in our daily work and also in our priorities of bringing Unibright to the next level.
Yeah, in general, of course, we have the high demand is still there, but obviously we have some problem here with COVID, with the health situation. We like to do these workshops in person, sitting at this table or in another office, having the customers or the interested parties face to face with us. That's obviously not possible at the moment. So a lot of them are postponed. And the other thing is, of course, there are workshops that are paid in fiat. It's not many, but there are, and those are not transparent to the public as well. But in general, as Stefan said, the demand has increased, especially adding baseline and the EA to it. So we have to find a way on how to work through all of these workshops that should be done by us.
Yeah, the thing about the workshops and interviews and chats around baseline, the good thing, so to say, is that baseline started when COVID already was coming up. So currently people are used to make these kind of workshops more on an online or video manner perhaps. And that's why we dedicated big amount of tokens from the login exactly for baseline and EA, because we knew that in the beginning we have to do a lot of education here, convincing workshops. So I think 90% of all workshop effort from Unibright currently is towards baseline and EA and the corresponding token log that we did there by the end of last year. So, and the next, like Martin said, the next phase of workshops hopefully will pick up in a personal manner here in this office again once it is possible.
Yeah.
And for the customers, yeah, that's the nice thing about the log and our log table on the website. You can check for yourself. And how many customers is always a little bit hard to answer in integration business, because the paying customer most of the time is one company. But he uses an integration framework to integrate many of his processes involving all of his clients. So you see from the token logs on our table that there are big ones, that there are small ones, that there are proof of concept that only want to try things once and now are in the decision making on how to move this further. So I think we're well set here. And again, the main goal of Unibright is to drive more clients into using our services and products.
Yes, and this will be the case, you can be sure of this. There's another one. What will the profits you make in the future be used for? Are there any investments? I mean, the profits, obviously they are used to cover the costs, paying the team and our investments into technology. Are there any investments?
I mean, this was the answer. We are investing into our tech stack and products. So if it's meant in a way, like if we make big profit that we ourselves invest in, I don't know, other companies or projects, we have with Unibright Ventures, we have a dedicated vertical doing that, but this is oriented to the very early or seed phase of innovative products. Yeah. And it's only a side vertical. So the main idea of a software company is, of course, making profits out of the software being used and then investing it into the tech stack again.
But still, we are investing into great ideas, especially in the blockchain space, and we have this internal thing going on too, where people can come up with ideas. So if anyone out there has great ideas and want to do some great startup and needs some support, of course, we are always open for that.
Is Unibright working with any Chinese companies? I say this because they seem or going to be one of the first to adopt blockchain innovation. We have a comparable feeling, so that Chinese companies are very innovation friendly towards blockchain. Currently, from our workshop audience, so to say, there have not been dedicated Chinese companies, but of course, in our partnerships, if you partner with somebody like, say, Digital Asset, they have clients worldwide, and if partnering also means that bringing tech stacks together or using the Unibright framework, then of course this is not restricted to any country or region.
Yeah, it's not only the blockchain technology space, but let's call it digital currency space, which is very active in China. We know that there is going on a lot of things, especially with partners of us. So we are aware of that market and are involved indirectly, so to say, with our partners. So, do you have a cooperation with companies as white label product? I mean,
yeah, so white labeling would mean that somebody takes the complete, or one of our components, one of our tech stack components, and puts his label on it and then sells it as his own development. So currently for the Unibright framework, the answer is a simple no. But for the frequency components, this was part of our consideration from the very beginning. So when we are talking about a vision of a 360-degree platform, then of course one option would be that we offer this platform, but the single components also already make sense for other vendors to be white labeled.
So the simple simple answer on frequency is yes. It's designed to be white labeled, and that's what we did or are doing with the liquidity component, for example, at the moment. And we will perhaps cover this in more detail when we have the live presentation on the liquidity component. Can you tell more about the government program?
Yeah, so the government program, this is also or always organized in different stages, and we passed all stages so far, so our proposal is accepted, and we're now in the middle of the next stage, which, as it is a government program, is already designed to take more than just days, so weeks or months. And we are not 100% sure in how far COVID affects that timeline, but we're still well on track. And yeah, it's a nice program. It's nothing that will affect the main business of Unibright in a big way. It's more working on parallel. It's also about tokenization.
I mean, that's what I wanted to add. The government program, it's nice, but it's a lot of work to do. Papers to write, applications to fill, everything around this. As we already talked about during the workshop discussion, it's all about managing resources and to find the best way to move forward with Unibright. I mean, it's a great position we're in. There are so many leads, so many things we can build on, and you just have to pick the right ones and to prioritize them. So the same holds true for the government program.
And the main idea why we applied for a government program, I mean, there can be different motivations to do so. For a very small startup, perhaps they need a very initial funding or something. This is not the case with Unibright, but this government program was dedicated towards subjects around also legal and regulatory compliance. And this is something we have been interested in the very beginning. So we also use or want to be part of this to widen our ecosystem and network towards the regulatory space. And this still holds true. So yeah, still running, takes some time.
Yeah.
Any update on Deutsche Bahn? Yeah, comparable, although this is not government backed, but it's still a very big enterprise. And this is the perfect example how workshops should work like in our understanding. So it was a big initial effort to do all the groundwork on our tokenization proposal, and also to do the education and presentations afterwards. And then of course it goes a long way through all the internal decision making on timelines, on priorities, on budgets. And of course we cannot tell on behalf of Deutsche Bahn how they decide on that, but the proposal is there, we did the groundwork, we are ready to go, and as soon as Deutsche Bahn or a comparable client who wants to pick up on the tokenization case is there, we are ready to serve. Okay, then perhaps let's just take the Unibright framework questions. It's not so many, it's just 3 of them. How does a business not using SAP access the framework? Is there an online portal to log in with? Okay, these are 2 questions. It doesn't matter if a business is using SAP or not, it's just our personal and business background that we did a lot of work on SAP related projects. But for the Unibright framework, you can connect any ERP system. It doesn't have to be SAP.
Yeah, I think it's a technical matter of technical question, which interface technology you use, and then it's not vendor specific, whether it's SAP, Oracle, or Microsoft ERP or legacy systems. They all use the same tech stack, and that's why, of course, the great thing is every system, be it from a big vendor or even a small legacy system, can be put onto the Unibright connector and be connected to blockchain applications.
Yeah, so for the second part of the question, if there is an online portal, I would understand an online portal as something available where you can configure your integration case, so you don't have to do it from the SAP screen, so to say, but of course you can use the Unibright connector tools that also have a user interface, a graphical user interface to log into your process, and then it doesn't matter if the actual connection comes from an SAP or Microsoft Dynamics or a small vendor or self-built solution.
Yeah, I have the feeling that in the near future there might be a demo on that, where we showcase exactly this. So stay in touch.
And the next question was really interesting, because could Unibright also possibly solve all the data silos between multiple ERP systems? Yeah, of course, because this is where we come from. We come from integration platforms that we also build on our own and that are productive in the non-blockchain sector. So this is exactly this. If somebody needs to bridge a silo between multiple ERP systems by not using blockchain, then of course we could also use our connector architecture to do so. But it's not the dedicated use case of Unibright. The dedicated use case of Unibright is to make use of blockchain technology where it makes sense and add this to the integration cases. So yes, we could possibly solve that, but our main goal is to do it around blockchain technology. Again, something about resources and priorities.
Yeah, and I mean this leads to the next and last question on the Unibright framework. What is the main use case for ERP integration? I mean, this is also not blockchain specific from the question. ERP integration, meaning connecting different ERP systems or different components that one company or a network of companies use, so that information and value is being exchanged in these systems, and normally it's being done in business processes. So we have these examples on the website, for example, multi-party approval or purchasing invoices or orders that are getting released.
Requests for quotation,
proposals. These are all business processes where multiple systems are involved, and these systems share information, and there are different partners and parties that have to be involved in this. And this is integration. So it's a technical matter, it's a matter of business processes, it's a matter of setting up protocols and systems,
data standards.
I think we'll come to this in more detail when we talk about baseline later on. So,
token and exchanges.
Okay.
What are you doing to increase liquidity of UBT?
Yeah, we're doing what we always do. We build and build and build. We just work, to be honest. We have no paid entity whatsoever to increase liquidity somewhere, because that's, in our point of view, just not needed. We are just the real thing. We're just moving forward, and everything seems to fall in place, and that's great. So there are no plans on somehow increasing liquidity.
Yeah, and I would add, in the end, it's always the goal to have parts of that liquidity providing customers with tokens, and they lock them in our framework. So liquidity is useful if you want to make new customers, give them the possibility to get their tokens. But our goal is, our metric is not we are the project with the most liquid utility token, but we are the project with the best utility.
But we
So
are.
so you can
from time to time.
yeah, from time to time we even are that, but it's not our main metric. The metric is to make use of the utility, and this is also the next question.
Yeah, but just to add, I mean, don't get me wrong on this. We are doing things indirectly, and liquidity increases. So
Of course, yeah. But this is not our main metric to tell the world that we have the greatest liquidity but no utility. So the idea is always to have more utility to the token, which is exactly the next question. Any other plans on adding more utility to UBT?
And he's giving the
like
example,
staking or voting.
Staking or voting.
Okay, so for the first part of the questions, yeah, we always are looking out for additional utility, like we did when we added the workshop payments with UBT. It's always a regulatory and legal manner that has to be checked. But our idea of UBT is to have it also as some kind of a universal blockchain token. So the more verticals we add and the more services or products we offer, of course, it's always in our mind to also use the utility we have on these new verticals, like we did with solutions. And staking or voting is something dedicated that has to be reviewed from the legal standpoint, because it could make regulators think that the Unibright token is a security, which we of course are not, because we are a utility.
I mean, given these 2 points, we've been talking with lawyers. We had the idea of staking and voting, and at least staking seems not to be so easy when you are a utility token. So in the near future, I guess there'll be no staking. Voting, getting the community and the token holders closer to decision-making processes, this might be doable. But as I said, we just started to look into this, and it seems like lawyers and regulators, they don't know for themselves so much. Exactly. But yeah, we got this. But it's a great question, and we got this topic covered.
Yeah. And voting could also be understood if you think of voting as making decisions on what a company should do or not. Of course, we try to engage the community anyway, no matter if they have to prove that they have tokens or not. So there are still some possibilities to do so, like we do with this AMA. And I think for the official part of how the utility of the Unibright token looks in 2 or 3 years, we just can't tell, because the regulator is also making up his mind, and we have to adapt to it, or we can give our input how we see it. And then if there's some new utility, then we always let you know.
I think frequency is a great example. Yeah. We have to work on the token model and see how we perfectly get the Unibright token into frequency to make it more a universal blockchain token.
Yeah.
It's a great example. Okay.
We are working on it, but we can't tell.
Yeah. So next question would be, instead of asking when exchange, what are the requirements or desires for Unibright regarding exchanges? What is your view on current well-known exchanges?
Our requirements are at least not paying them crazy amount of Bitcoin to get listed just because other projects did. I mean, like 2 or 3 days ago, we were offered something around 60 Bitcoin to be listed on a not top exchange, and we asked, well, what's the purpose of it, and they couldn't give a real answer. So perhaps the business model of running an exchange just for running it was quite useful in 2017 without any regulation involved, and nowadays we don't have the feeling that this is the way to go. The decentralized exchanges are doing very well, also in our case.
Yeah, I think from a business perspective, of course, we want to be sure that every possible customer, in which jurisdiction he ever resides, is able to buy Unibright tokens. So there might be some places on the map that have to be covered. For example, looking at Asia, perhaps. So yes, we're looking at this from a business perspective to give every possible customer the chance to buy tokens. That would be a metric.
And it again would more provide towards the utility of the token than just the liquidity. So
yeah,
if we see a chance on an exchange in another jurisdiction to bring more consumption on the framework usage, then we're adding to the utility, and then it's a good thing to have it listed there, but not the other way around.
yeah, and then it feels like with the demand on workshops or customers asking for our services, the same holds true for exchanges. I mean, Stefan just threw in this example of this one exchange.
The negative example.
The negative, but there are, in the last weeks or month, there have been a few of those and more coming in. So I think it will evolve naturally with the business.
Yep. The last question from this blog: how customers can use Unibright when price will be $10 or $100 per token? Generally speaking, we have a token model blog where we explained all that. The idea behind the token model, there were many ideas behind it, and of course it was very theoretical in the beginning, but we have the feeling that we and the team and all of them involved really did a great job on defining the token model, because it was exactly built to bridge the gap between adoption, big and small clients. So, for example, we bridged the gap between enterprise usage and the crypto world, so to say, by using the token for a first entry point into our system, but then having the chance to reload in a classical contract with fiat or other cryptocurrencies, no matter what. And the only thing that changes for the customer when the price is more than it was during the token sale is that they are very motivated to go for long-term contracts, because the longer the contract is, the more they can average on the monthly price between the initial price and the monthly reusage. And this is exactly what a new technology has to, or a new product, a new offering has to guarantee. In the beginning, you have to make the hurdle quite low, so that small startups or the ones we did the proof of concept with can actually afford that early adopter stage. And in the long term, integration processes are running for years and years, some even for decades. So it will be no problem for a big client to go for a long-term contract.
Yeah.
This is how it was designed, and I think it plays out really, really well.
It gives the customers and businesses that come first, they have the lowest initial price. I think that's just fair for those taking the risks, and those waiting longer and longer and longer, they have a higher initial price to get to use our products, and that's just fine. I think it's a great model, especially still having all the market mechanisms like demand and supply in place. So the model does not fail with the token hit that prices.
No, it supports it, and it supports big clients coming into the technology when smaller companies took the risk and tried some things out because they're faster or more agile, and then the big giant companies, they can just sit aside, look, and once they're ready, they can just come into the product.
Yeah, and this somehow might even include the question whether or what would happen if all tokens are locked. I mean, this is covered too by the token model. This would be fine too, and we could work on this, or the customers could still continue working and using our products and services.
Of course.
So next section is partners. We have 2 questions on partners. What happened to your partnership with DataDash, aka Nicholas Merton? What are your marketing plans for the future?
It's very interesting that this question is put that way, because first it asked for the partnership with DataDash, and then what are your marketing plans? So first of all, it's not a marketing partnership, it's an advisory partnership, and Nicholas has been a very valuable contact, a very clever person, a very thoughtful person to talk to from the very beginning of our journey, and we're still in very good contact with him. So what happened to the partnership? It happened that we really love to have this. It grew and love to have this partnership in place.
Yeah, we had this. I think we had this interview a few weeks ago with him.
Yeah, and he also did a moderation or hosting of an EA or baseline event. So I mean, the space is not that big, so you happen to meet the same people anyway, and we are very happy that in person of Nicholas that we have this partnership on an advisory level established since the very beginning, and it's great. And the marketing plans for the future, we always give the same answer. Our marketing strategy is to make Unibright stronger and to showcase what we really can do. We build, we show the world what we build, and the world knows us now, and they start to pick up and ask for our ideas, concepts, or invite us to be part of EA and Baseline, and customers ask for workshops. So this is our major marketing plan to really market everything about Unibright.
I guess we're doing the right kind of marketing now, the marketing that fits us. Being in the right consortiums, leading groups, moving forward with blockchain. I mean, we do this now. In the past, we tried some other things, like when the crypto hype was still on, like paying a lot of money for crypto magazines or whatever.
Or ads.
This didn't pay off, and it's good that it didn't pay off, because it felt strange, and the way we do it now is much more natural to us, and I think it brings the real substantial long-term growth to us that we want.
Exactly, and I think, just to add, it not only felt strange, but it also would weaken our position if the only possibility we have is paying more money for great marketing, but would not have any substantial products or know-how or network behind it. So I think we're really set up very well here. And the next one is about the partnership with Tolar. This is also a good example on how we work, because in the crypto hype times, there were projects that announced a new partnership just on a daily basis, we had the feeling, or some of them still do. And we always pick the partners if they really bring some additional value. And in the case of Tolar, this was another mechanism on how to build a decentralized distributed ledger system. So I think it was a very good idea to partner with them, but they're of course also a startup who have to build their own tech stack first. So this partnership is nothing that affects, so to say, our daily work, but it's good to have it in place. And the partnerships that did not turn out to have something substantial, then at least we tried, and then we agreed to that it's better to move on every project on its own behalf, and then perhaps meet later again. And I can tell if this happens with Tola, but it's nothing that's on the table right now. More the partnerships with out of the Baseline and EA world, and also to the digital asset and the big ERP players. These are the ones that affect us positively in our daily work these days.
Okay, that's all about partners. Now we have the section private. And sadly, there's only one private question to ask.
We're not that sad though.
Okay, let's see. Hi, Stefan and Martin. Have you played FF7 Remake? I think it's Final Fantasy.
I had to look it up, I'm honest. Did you know? Did you know what it is?
I guessed it is.
Okay, I had to look it up.
It's the remake of Final Fantasy.
So we can tell you that we are not the biggest gamers, but we have some history in it. From our childhood times, we played a soccer game that was called Italy 90.
Yeah, for the World Cup 1990.
So you can guess how old we really are, but nothing for Final Fantasy 7.
So 30 years ago, we sat beside a computer and played Italy 90, and
the actual answer is we don't have time, we have to build.
Yeah. Okay. Next section, we have a section called Other Questions. I think they can be gone through very fast. When will the Tulip Awards finals be? Great thanks to Ruud, by the way, for handling everything around the Tulip Awards in the Netherlands.
And managing to get to the final, actually.
And managing to get to the finals, which are held on June 11th in an online format.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. It's a question in German, but I will translate it. Can you do a few videos or explanatory material in German?
Ja, könnten wir.
We could of course, but we could as well do them in Polish or Japanese language, because the great thing is everything is so diversified and distributed that just having German material, because we are from Germany, that it's just a small community speaking German, and it's once again a matter of managing resources. And so the short answer is not at the moment. There won't be any German materials, because English is just fine, and we managed to use the English written and spoken language as well. So I think it's a good fit. Now we've reached the block baseline protocol and questions concerning baseline and Reddish 34. Will baseline have a positive or negative impact on your product offering? Is there an overlap in the baseline product offer versus other baseline partners?
Yeah, the next question is, I think, comparable. It's in German. Could you explain how much of your code is used by EY? I don't know why EY, but okay. And how was the deal? Do you get customers and marketing in return? Yeah,
and he's referring to Nightfall, which was published by EY on GitHub as well as an open source contribution. Okay.
Yeah, so I think Baseline itself is set up as an open source project, public domain, even public domain. So everything that an individual or a company puts into Baseline can be used by everybody else. This is the deal, so to say. And it's a little bit comparable to the questions if somebody could just copy our code and make a little tweak on it and then just make us unnecessary. It's not the case at the current state. The blockchain technology and enterprise adoption is because we need these kind of standardization, we need protocols, we need consortia of companies really driving things forward. And of course, we hope that it will have a positive impact on our product offering, to answer the question. And if you look at the Baseline docs and the manifesto about how a Baseline should be built, the most important idea of contributing to Baseline is to build your own products around it. So we are perfectly in line there. It's not that we officially do some public domain work and secretly behind the scenes are working on our own products. No, it's meant exactly that way. So I think it's a great setup of moving technology forward, and they also profit from our audience and from our community power. They're mentioning very often that the launch of Baseline had such a great impact, not only but also because companies like Unibright did some great storytelling around it.
And concerning marketing and getting customers from partners like EY or Consensus or Microsoft, all those involved in Baseline. I mean, of course, it's a big part of setting up joint marketing and having conferences and summits together. And all of those were planned. And as you all know, for example, looking at Consensus 2020 and others, they have to be other formats, and we're still planning on how to move on with these. But especially given these joint instruments, I think we can benefit hugely from it for our product and for Baseline in general.
During the EY Blockchain Summit, Ernst & Young talked about ERP integration, such as integrations into SAP. However, they didn't mention Unibright specifically. No. Okay, they don't have to, of course. I think we'll make our case here. Currently, we are building an integration on Baseline with Unibright tools from SAP to other ERP systems, and of course, we also want to talk about it. This is also the main purpose of something like the eminent integration task force within the EEA, to not only talk and meet secretly behind the curtain, but also to produce output for the world to see. And especially
too little spoiler.
Yeah, especially the SAP integration, of course, is something that should also be shown in Baseline, and we hope to have some news on that soon. we can at least share our part of it, so integrating an SAP with our Unibright connector into the baseline protocol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how does Unibright and Chainlink interact as for working on baseline protocol, and how do they complement each other?
Yeah, so for baseline protocol, we have to be clear here. It's two different things. The EEA, the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, where Eminent, our integration task force that we are leading, is positioned. This is one organization, and Baseline is another one. But of course, they share the same goals. The Enterprise Ethereum Alliance wants to make enterprises ready for blockchain and blockchain ready for enterprises. And Baseline, the Baseline protocol could be one or the main tool to do so. So in terms of Chainlink, they are also part of the integration task force. And the example that I just told about the SAP integration, for example, this is something that we picked up from Unibright together with Provide, another member of the EEA task force. And we decided to make a hackathon towards Baseline to show some integration outcome. And everybody, also Chainlink, could do comparable stuff, but of course you would have to ask Chainlink if they do so. And for EA, we just have the feeling that it's a good fit to have a business integrator and then an analytics provider and then an Oracle provider setting up an integration task force. For a start, this is a good idea, and then we hope to have many companies and many contributors in it.
Yeah. So when AMA with Unibright and Chainlink talking about EEA and baseline protocol, I mean, we had this hackathon planned and set up with Unibright and Chainlink and AnyBlock Analytics for the end of March, where in this setup we would have talked about everything. We had the place booked, the hotel, everything was managed, and Chainlink and Johan and a few of his people should have been there, but sadly, due to COVID, we needed to cancel this. So I can't give you a definite date on whether or when we will repeat this.
I mean, we moved further since then. So we have a distributed hackathon going on where everybody works in smaller groups, like I just said, we doing with Provide. And I don't know if there has to be a dedicated Unibright and Chainlink AMA about EEA and baseline protocol.
It could be, but it's not something we are pushing because it's not. It would be nice, but it's not something we need.
Exactly.
So let's see.
Yeah.
Since Baseline is open source and enterprise ready, how does Unibright make sure people won't just use or copy the Baseline protocol or go to the EEA for use case? What are the benefits of going to and make use of Unibright?
Yeah, this is funny because he asked, how does Unibright make sure people won't just use Baseline? I mean, that's what we want, that they use Baseline. It would be great if the protocol comes to a state of maturity where you can actually use it. And then, like with everything that's on protocol layer, you need the tools to access this protocol. It's not that you will, for example, if you're using the HTTP protocol, it's not that you are firing up messages on this protocol on your own. You're using a browser, and the browser makes use of the protocol, and of course you're using the browser that fits your needs most or that you think is the best browser. So what Unibright is, we are offering the browser, the access, the integrator into Baseline.
That's a great picture. We're the browser for Baseline. I mean, yes. So anyone who's using Baseline, we are quite positive, will or can make a lot of use of the Unibright products and services.
And the more we are able to contribute to the actual standard itself, the easier for us it is to make sure that our products work well with it. So we hope that people are going to use the Baseline protocol, and we will not stop them.
Yeah, and I guess that's why EA addressed Unibright in the first place, to be somehow part of this whole Baseline journey, as they saw that we can add to it hugely and be a vital part of it.
And the storytelling behind Baseline is also, you would not have been able to tell the Baseline story 3 years ago, because telling people blockchain is only a boring middleware bus would not have been a great story to tell, but it's the realistic story to tell, and it's something that we also told from the very beginning, that it's not realistic to just wipe away everything that has been set up during the last decades and just replace everything with blockchain. It's about integration. That's why Unibright was formed in the first place. And this is also why integrators have such an important role when it comes to establishing a new protocol.
Yeah. Okay, to the next question. Is there a real-life example you can give that EA baseline increases demand for Unibright? Yeah, there are a few. From a big picture or high-level perspective, we've got a lot of inquiries via email, for example, from really big companies that get to learn about baseline, and they come and say like, "Oh, that's great! Finally, we have this protocol and standardization idea of how we can make use of blockchain and combine private and public blockchains and come up with a great setup." And then they come to Unibright and ask like, "Oh, you are this founding member, you are very much involved. Can we talk about getting our business process baselined, so to say?" So yes, there are a lot of leads in that direction.
Yeah. And that's also what we expected, that in the very beginning it will not be so much about give me the product, I want to use the baseline protocol now, because the protocol still has to be built. We are contributing to it, but it's not that it's ready. So it's more about baselining a process, and that's why we expected a lot of workshops to be in regards to baseline. And I think this just plays out very well, and it's good to see that people ask for our opinion and our advice, and we're happy to help.
Yeah. So perhaps you can share a few words on the difference between baseline and eminent.
Yeah, so I covered it in some minutes ago when we told that these are two different organizations. Eminent is a task force under the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, and Baseline was formed by members that are also part or members of the EA, but not exclusively. So the difference is, the one thing is a protocol that should be used by companies and products, and Eminent is a task force to work on integration matters, to explain them to the world, to make reference implementations like we now do with SAP and Baseline. So the difference perhaps is the one is the thing that you really use, the Baseline protocol, and Eminent is the task force that drives standards and education so that there can be something like Baseline in the end. Perhaps this is the difference.
Okay. Then we got another question for Baseline, of course. It's in German, let me translate. What will happen after June? In the video, one can see that the project is only projected until June. What's happening after June? I guess thing is the founding members did a projection until June, and afterwards there has to be the setup a little bit adjusted in a way that all the other companies that joined, that they get their seats and one can see how they are contributing. So it's, in my opinion, a question of the setup, and that's, I don't know when the agenda will be online.
Yeah, we can tell we have our own agenda, and this of course exceeds June, because building the protocol and building our projects around it will be not a matter of 2 or 3 months. But what happens in these 2-3 months is first example applications and first contributions. I mean, everybody can look into the GitHub repo and see that there's a lot of traffic going on and a lot of pull requests. So it really picked up nicely. And for the official plans, of course, how everything is structured, this question should be placed towards the Baseline seats, of course, well, the board.
Okay, can you give a more detailed explanation about the Baseline protocol than one can find on your website? I mean,
not in this AMA, I guess.
No, but I think we gave a lot of explanatory materials on Baseline. Perhaps
videos, blogs.
Yeah, the one person that gave us the question didn't know. So on the blog or on our YouTube channel, you can find very longish material, pages and very long videos explaining everything on Baseline. And of course, on the website itself, it's a website. It's covered in a few sentences. But if you dig a little deeper, especially on the blog, you'll find very good explanatory material.
And it's also important to mention that you only can explain what is there. So of course the first explanatory videos are very much about the idea behind baseline and how thinking of blockchain as middleware can be considered differently than what has been there before. And when we move forward, the next question, for example, is what are the next steps? Of course, the explanatory material will also evolve. So if we are able to show a SAP baseline integration, then we can do dedicated blog and explanatory material also on, for example, technical interfaces. How does an SAP system interact with our Unibright connector, and what does the Unibright connector automatically do to put it into baseline? But it would make no sense to explain this, all of this prior to actually building it. So we first build it and then we add more material.
Yeah, I guess that's the answer to the question. What are the next steps in business solution? Making sure that everyone that is using baseline is in need of using Unibright tools, because we can, with the Unibright connector, we are the ones that enable systems that are off-chain to be connected to baseline.
Yeah.
And
for us, the next steps are to show exactly this to the world.
Great. So the next block is about Frequency, our tokenization platform, our 360-degree tokenization standard.
Can you describe how Frequency is going to work? So is the tokenization of, for example, real estate an alternative for the middleman? Is this going to rule out the real estate agent? So perhaps let's make one thing clear. There are many questions that are in a direction. If we are the next big STO provider or something. So our idea is not that we will be the specialists on finding the best real estate project to be tokenized. We think there are experts on that. We are software providers and we are building all the components that in our vision are needed to make a successful tokenization, and also the phases after the tokenization, liquidity and everything. So when we describe something about Frequency, we will always emphasize the technical and the software part of it, and we will not argue in favor of one real estate project over the other. This is due to those who use such a platform.
Yeah, and of course the answer to will it cut out the middleman and the real estate agent? Yeah, every tokenization might just do this.
Yeah, but not Frequency does, but a tokenization process, of course, an idea is of decentralization to cut out the middleman to a specific extent, and Frequency is supporting decentralized software architectures for tokenization.
Yeah.
So let's put it that way.
Yeah. When will Frequency be launched? Maybe give an estimate. As the platform consists of a lot of components to make it a 360-degree platform. These components will go live one after the other. For example, the liquidity component is very far developed. It's pre-beta somehow. We have a first customer looking into it who wants to use it for his STO platform. Other parts like custodian solutions, they might take a few months longer. So there is no fixed roadmap. But as I said, the first components are touching product readiness now.
Yeah, so a launch date is cannot possibly be given like we have a new website and it's launched on Thursday. We had this white label question before. So it could also be that parts of our developments are white labeled by other platforms and, so to say, are already launched. And the exact date when the complete 360-degree platform will be fully functional and from our side, so to say, can't be answered. We are working component by component. And just to remember, in this AMA, we are more covering the general questions, but we will have dedicated walkthroughs to the simulation and liquidity component as separate material as well, and we will link it here in the video as soon as it is online.
Yeah, and then you can see how far it already is and how great it is in our view. Regarding the Frequency platform, do you plan to cover the tokenization in real estate category? I'm asking this because real estate seems more appealing to average folks. Yeah, we're not bound to real estate, but real estate was the motivation and the pilot case to build it. So real estate comes naturally to Frequency. Yes, of course.
But not limited to it.
No. The offers on your tokenization platform will be available for average folks or just for professional investors. Yeah, let's look at the real estate example again. If some party tokenizes some real estate and sells shares on that real estate during or through to the tokens that are being emitted, then of course average folks might be using it. Professional investors use it as they offer tokens on it or provide liquidity or provide custodial solutions. So it's
and the platform itself doesn't make the definition on that, because the great thing about Frequency, also comparable to our Unibright framework, is that we automatically generate a software environment based on different parameters. And if the jurisdiction parameter, for example, of one specific project using Frequency tells that only institutional investors are allowed, then this very single STO running on Frequency will only be towards institutional investors. And if the next project configures it in a way that a real estate project is open to everyone or to the average folks, then all that identity mapping and KYC will also allow average folks. So from Frequency, there's no restriction that it's only for professional users. It's more out of the view of the one doing the actual token emission.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if the question was meant in a way like the investors into a tokenized asset, are those only average or are those only professional? That I think you just explained.
Yeah, I think many of these questions perhaps confuse that Frequency does not define who is allowed to be part in an STO project. The STO, the project providing the security does. Yeah, and we are building the software that they can.
But I think one can say that the one party that is using it to create a token, to make to tokenize an asset, that will mostly be a somehow professional
definitely
or entity or a company from a legal point. Okay, great.
So we answered more questions than were asked, but hopefully the answer was also among them.
Let's see here. Other than obvious supply and demand, what are the factors that determine the price of a STO within Frequency formula's bonding curve?
The answer is already part of that question, because the price is determined by a formula. Yeah. So in the case of that liquidity pools, and we also dive deeper into that with giving that walkthrough where you can also see the tool itself, is to make price formula based on the ratio between a stable coin pool and the actual token pool. And this is determining the price. Everybody can see how the price calculation is made. Everybody can see that the actual price was settled in the blockchain. That's the idea.
Yeah, and of course there are some more parameters like the amount of supply and demand relative to the total supply of the token, meaning some pressure on the token. This is something that is vital for designing a token. So you have to come up with the supply of the token, and that's why we have the simulation tools, so that we can find the right parameters for every asset to be tokenized. And just some small, perhaps it makes it clearer, if you compare this approach to, let's say, Kyber or Uniswap, all those that offer pools in a way to exchange currencies or utility tokens, that's just fine. Our approach is much more granular or specific to the asset, so that we realize with our customers that let's go back to real estate. A specific piece of real estate needs a specific token that fits the demands of this piece of real estate from a KYC perspective, from a legal perspective, but especially from a trading perspective too. Because if it's only 50 or 100 investors into the real estate, then the token has to be designed in a completely different way than when it is a token that is offered to millions of people. So that's why we came up with Frequency in the first place, to have a tailor-made solution for tokens and tokenized assets.
And one of the value propositions is that we do this automatically, or our software does. So like with the Unibright framework, where we design something visually and code gets generated, here you have a dedicated process that makes a tailor-made token for your demand. And this is the next question, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
What is the winning difference between Frequency and standard crypto centralized and decentralized exchanges? So Frequency is way more than, or it's not an exchange. Part of Frequency, one component is a liquidity component that you can use to buy or sell tokens from. But I think the winning difference is that we just do not focus on just one aspect, but that we have this 360-degree view, and not just issue a token and then leave the project alone, but offer liquidity components from the very beginning and proper regulatory compliance. So the winning difference is, in my understanding, that we see this from an integration point and try to bring all these components and existing technologies together.
Yeah, and just to make it clear, for example, we can work into the token, we can work into it all the KYC demands, so to say, by design, and that is something you don't do with a cryptocurrency that is exchanged on a centralized exchange. So Frequency can have, I don't know, limitations on the state of jurisdictions, or whether the holder or trader of the token is a professional investor or not. This is things we can really build into the token, and it's a completely different thing to then exchange some cryptocurrency on an exchange. Crypto exchanges tend to be aimed at the crypto audience due to Unibright's background and experience. Are you aiming Frequency at traditional finance opposed to the crypto audience?
This is quite philosophical. I think if we could look into the future, then hopefully these audiences somehow merge at one point, because it's nothing special anymore to have a crypto-related digital token involved in the business process. Nowadays, I think we have two different audiences that ask for Frequency right now. One is those who already know blockchain and are now interested in STOs. But we also have, we had one case where somebody wants to tokenize something, but the customers are all personally known, and they should still come into their office, sign a contract, and then somehow get tokens without any technology involved. So this is somehow an example how far we are in merging these two worlds.
I mean, this would
still a long way to go.
This would be the traditional finance, a good example of it.
Yeah.
And my feeling was, yes, we're aiming at it because it is somehow our past and our future, and what we are into at the moment, having traditional customers from the finance and manufacturer sector, giving them the opportunity to make use of tokenization. And on the other hand, of course, the crypto audience, crypto investors somehow fit into it. So
and hopefully one day in the future it will be not that hard distinction between the two audiences, but somehow this technology made its way into the mainstream and everyday life, and then it's just one audience, those who want to be part of an STO process.
Yeah. Okay, the next question. I like the liquidity concept. You mentioned they are like Uniswap and Kyber pools, but regulated. Will normal investors like me be able to participate in the pool? First of all,
like a pool provider.
Technically it's doable.
It depends again on the regulation.
Yeah, it depends.
So for example, if you make a real estate offering, then it could be one option that you are the liquidity provider. So you offer the project itself and you manage the liquidity pool. Or it could be that you just offer the project and are looking on the market for a third party to be the liquidity provider. And in this case, of course, you could also be part of participating in the pool as long as the regulator allows.
Yeah, the role of a professional liquidity provider is designed within Frequency.
Yeah, technically it's designed. Yeah.
As Frequency issues and trades security token offerings, do you have an exclusive STO sales planned? If so, how many?
Yeah, so this is something that where we can definitely answer that it will not be about on us to design the exclusive first offerings on our platform. We will not be the ones making due diligence if one real estate project is better than another one. It should be part of the concept to do these external auditions and due diligence processes. But for now, Frequity should be seen as a software component framework to provide these STOs. But it's not that we are offering exclusive STOs on our behalf.
Yeah, I've got a great picture. It's like during the gold rush. I mean, we're not digging gold, but we are offering the tools.
Yeah.
The tools for digging.
But we will not tell you where you
equipment.
have to go to find your gold. Yeah.
Great picture. Will UBT be used as a medium of exchange on Frequity?
Within a pool, I guess he means?
No, within a pool, or UBT as a medium to pay for the usage of the Frequity platform. And this
is it definitely?
Yes. I think this is.
But UBT as a part of a pool for STO project, theoretically it could be, because as long as the regulator allows it, then the provider can decide which part the pools are made of.
To be honest, in our demos and when we use it at the moment, we always have stable coins in the pool, which we trade against the asset token. I think the question was meant like, do we use UBT as the preferred way to use Frequity? And yes.
Yes, this is the idea of a universal blockchain.
Will you release a roadmap for Frequity?
Again, we would more like to release the ongoing process, and like we already announced, for example, have this walkthrough or have public available demos or a beta or a final version as soon as it's ready. We think this is more valuable than releasing roadmaps without being in charge of the metric, how many projects actually want to do an STO. And we would put this into a roadmap. So we would have to put in the roadmap, we have 100 STOs by September, whatever, but the projects still have to do their work. So.
Yeah, I think it's a dynamic roadmap anyway, because if we have more demand for, let's say, custody solutions, then we will
put resources into that,
Yeah. The liquidity pools for security tokens. They will be security token and some stablecoin? Mostly yes. Will you maybe integrate something like Uniswap Kyber so I can buy and sell the token easily for tokens that you don't support?
Okay, so let's
bridge.
Of course, these bridging tools are there, and they can be used if you use a Frequity pool and the Frequity pool expects some stable coin or ETH or whatever, and you don't have this very coin, then of course you have to. You can use bridges to get it, but the pool itself currently is designed to have two components: the asset token and some stable coinish concept on the other side of the pool. Technically, the pool is not limited. So if the regulators decide to ban whatever stablecoin, then of course we can put another counterpart in the pool as well, and perhaps to a specific extent, we will also would leave this decision to the issuer of the token.
Yeah, the issuer, and this is somehow leading to the next question and the last question on Frequity. Can Frequity be used as a token exchange to trade cryptocurrencies using pools? Technically, yes. Of course, someone could set up an environment where he trades, I don't know, ETH or I don't know, some cryptocurrency against another stablecoin. If the issuer comes up with a plan and it's compliant, he can of course do so.
Currently, our audience is towards those that want to make a regulatory compliant offering, and part of that offering is also to have like monthly payouts on the security that you invested in. So I don't think that the use case of just exchanging cryptocurrencies would really live up to that, but technically again it's possible. So perhaps to close these kind of questions, it's very important again to emphasize that these are software components that are highly automatable, that produce code automatically, and that can be customized for the single project so that they perfectly fit. And what potential outcome projects will use this, of course, we cannot tell. There are endless possibilities. For our first examples, we are more focusing on the classical STO subjects, like perhaps a real estate offering, and then we take it from there.
Yes. Great. So this block is closed, and I was running through the pages looking for the next page, but I fear we've covered all the questions.
Yeah, and who made it until this point of the video already watched, like, I don't know how many minutes of video material. And we will publish additional material on Frequency with more screens and also walkthrough in the next days, and link it in this video description. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
For your interest in Unibright and for following along our news. If you want to keep close to the project, then be sure to check out our blog. This is the main source where we announce all the stuff that has been done, and we are about to build a lot. So
Yeah.
thanks.
Thanks for your patience and stay safe.
Bye bye.
Bye.